Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Target Individual Program, the Target Individual Experience. Um, let's see where we begin. So, this morning, extreme retaliation from the video that I did yesterday. And I do mean extreme. And you guys will see exactly what I'm talking about, but not in this video. This is going to be a two-part video, okay? And this part, again, I'm going to talk about the psychological program, the brainwashing, the mind control, or as it is known today, behavior modification, coercive persuasion program. Thank you for recognizing that. You hear the car honk? That's what the perps do every single day. They have nothing better to do. I am I am their job. Some people get up, they go to work, they punch in the clock. They're in a building somewhere. Some people work outside on the street. These perps, they work outside on the streets. They sit in their car, they walk around, engaging in illegal, coercive psychological tactics, and that's their job. Okay, their job is actually me. Doing this to me as well as to other TIs. We are their job. They get some of them get paid to do this. Others do this because of strong belief system that they have. Most likely, religious individuals who do it not for money, but because of their religious belief, because they're waging a holy, righteous war. So the perps can, I shouldn't say the perps, but the perpetrators of the architect of these programs, you know, can basically, you know, have these people working for free. They're the modern day slaves, and I'm not talking about the slaves that go to work, punch in to a 9 to 5. These people working in the field, they're not picking cotton. They're engaging in psychological warfare, and they're not getting paid for it. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. Now, the use of directed energy weapons, they do use the U.S. government, whether it be the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, Department of Defense, and that goes in conjunction with the street theater, the psychological operations. And but today, I'm going to show you in a video how, again, in this case, this instance, it is not mind control technology that's at work, but it's actually a premeditated street theater that is set up, okay, to send me silent subliminal messages, negative silent subliminal messages. Okay, so I want to go back to the root of brainwashing. Okay, we're not. I'm not talking about a coercive persuasion program right now, even though coercive persuasion program is brainwashing. But I'm gonna go back to the definition of brainwashing itself, okay, and what it does to the person who is brainwashed. And you may hear some people say, well, only some people are susceptible to brainwashing, and that's a lie. Everyone is susceptible to brainwashing. Some people may not want to believe that because they think for some reason their mind is strong, but anyone and everyone is susceptible to brainwashing. Okay? So let's talk about how brainwashing works. Okay, and this comes from the sciencehowstuffwork.com website. Okay, so in the late 1950s, psychologist Robert J. Lifton studied former prisoners of Korean War and Chinese war camps. He determined that they've undergone a multi step process that begins with attack on the prisoner's sense of self and ended with what appeared to be a change in beliefs. Lipton ultimately defined a step of steps involved in the brainwashing cases he studied. 1. Assault on identity. 2. Guilt. 3. Self betrayal. 4. Breaking point. 5. Leniency. 6. Compulsion to confess. 7. Challenging of guilt. 8. Releasing of guilt. 9. Progress and harmony. 10. Final confession and rebirth. Now, you guys can read this, but I just want to read it and also give examples of, in my targeting, how they use these brainwashing tactics to brainwash me. Okay? Each of these stages takes place in an environment of isolation, which at that time is true. It is not that way anymore. Okay? Now, they don't eventually, as a target, you will be isolated. Okay? But they can also do it out in the environment where you're not isolated. Okay? Meaning all normal social reference points are unavailable. The mind clouding techniques like sleep deprivation, we as targets always talk about sleep deprivation, being unable to sleep because we're being microwaved. Okay? And malnutrition are typically part of the process. There is often the presence or constant threat of physical harm. Okay, let me okay, you guys can see that better. Okay, so there's often the presence or constant threat of physical harm, which adds to the target difficulty in thinking critically and independence. And independently. Sorry about that. We can roughly divide the process Lifton identified into 3 stages: breaking down the self, introducing the possibility of salvation, and rebuilding the self. Breaking down the self. Assault on identity. You are not who you think you are. This is a systematic attack on the target's sense of self, also called his identity or ego, and his core belief system. The agents, the agent or agents deny everything that makes the target who he or she is. Okay, even though they don't include the word she in there, I'm going to put it in there because there are female targets as well as male targets. Okay, you are not a soldier. You are not a man. You are not defending freedom. The target is under constant attack for days, weeks, or months, to the point where he becomes exhausted, confused, disoriented. In this state, his belief seems less solid. Now, let me just stop there and hold on a sec. And I'm going to use references from my experience being in this coercive persuasion program. Okay? So, very early in my targeting, I didn't understand what was happening. I was being constantly harassed by the police. They were staging false arrests in front of me. I go to work, I'll turn up the block, and I'll see a police officer with holding someone that was in handcuffs. And as I'm walking towards the officer and the person in handcuffs, and they're both facing me, the police officer would turn the person that was in handcuffs around so I can see his hands behind his back in handcuffs. Okay, and this happened frequently and regularly. Okay, then they were bombarding me with noise, a noise campaign, fire trucks, ambulances, sirens. It was a lot. You know, morning, noon, night. I go to work, same thing. Come home, same thing. Sleep in the middle of the night, same thing. But they also had me under remote neural monitoring. So this made me very tired, very confused, very disoriented. Okay, trying to figure out, I think, what the heck is going on. Right? So let's move on. Guilt. You are bad. While the identity crisis is setting in, the agent is simultaneously creating an overwhelming sense of guilt in the target. He repeatedly and mercilessly attacked the subject for any sin the target has committed, large or small. He may criticize the target from everything from the evilness of his belief to the way he eats too slowly. The target began to feel a general sense of shame that everything he does is wrong. Let me stop there. So, during, again, my initial targeting, like I said, confused, didn't know what's going on, disorientated. I was barely eating. And then what I began to notice is that when I would eat my food and I eat everything, immediately, there's the noise. Immediately, I started hearing sirens. Okay? Then there are times when I would eat half my food and then I wasn't noticing any siren. Okay? So a lot of times I wouldn't eat because the effect of me eating all my food will bring on the sound of sirens or noise campaign. So I lost a lot of weight. And I was, talking to a coworker, explaining to him what was happening. And he was just like, I think you need to go get some help or something. Right? So that was that. So let me continue. Self-betrayal. Agree with me that you are bad. Once the subject is disorientated and drowning in guilt, the agent forces him or her either with a threat of physical harm or the continuance of the mental attack. And this is exactly what they do. Okay? To denounce his family, friends, and peers who share the same wrong belief system that he holds. Now let me go back. Not go back, but let me explain this part. So, in this process, this way, with the soldiers that were captured by North Korea or Communist China, they turn the person off from friends and families. They try to disconnect them on their belief. In the Coercive Persuasion program, with the use of directed energy weapons, mind control weapons, they turn your family and your friends against you. Okay? See the difference? They turn your family and friends against you. And then you become isolated because you see them as attacking you. Right? You see them as being part of a group of people who want to do you harm. Okay? So that's the difference, right? Self-betrayal. Okay, just read that. Okay. So this betrayal of his own belief and of the people he feels a sense of loyalty to increase the shame and loss of identity the target is already experiencing. The breaking point. Who am I? Where am I? And what am I supposed to do? With his or her identity in crisis, experiencing deep shame and having betrayal what he has always believed in, the target may undergo what in the lay community is referred to as a nervous breakdown. In psychology, nervous breakdown is really just a collection of severe symptoms that can indicate any number of psychological disturbance. It may involve uncontrollable sobbing, deep depression, and general disorientation. The target may also lose his grip on reality and have a feeling of being completely lost and alone. When the target reaches his or her breaking point, his or her sense of self is pretty much up for grab. He or she has no longer clear I'm sorry, not no longer, has no clear understanding of who he or she is and what is happening to him or her. At this point, the agent set up the temptation to convert to another belief system that will save the target from his misery. So again, let me pause right here and use my own experience in this program. So a few months into my targeting, I would say about maybe 7 to 8 months into my targeting, I did have a nervous breakdown, you know. And when I had this nervous breakdown, I felt like I was being pulled in many directions, you know, and I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't know what was going on, you know. I had people who were used to target me with the color black. Okay, at that point, you know, after the nervous breakdown, I started noticing things like a lot of people, the frequency of people wearing black, all black. Okay, you know, also during that time, as I went back to work, as I would take the train, there was a police officer. I was standing waiting for a train, and a police officer came up to me, and for a good minute stood in front of me, just staring at me. You know, and I was staring back because, you know, at this point, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what was going on, and I was like, I got to keep it together. You know, I got to keep it together, right? So then he turns around and he walks off. Okay. Then I go to pick up my son on the weekend that I have him, and there would be police officers at the train station where I get off to pick him up, and when they see me, they would look at their watch. This was constant. Okay, and I'm going to show you in the video. You know, again, you'll see the perps doing the same thing. What I didn't understand is that at the time that I was being brainwashed, okay, and a different kind of brainwashing, okay, that included some of what I'm reading here, but also what is called dark NLP, okay, creating anchors and triggers that will show up later, you know, during my targeting, okay. So again, I had a nervous breakdown, and you know, everything that I said here is that it involved uncontrollable sobbing. Did that. Deep depression, had that. General disorientation, had that. Okay. Now let's move on. Leniency. I can help you. With the target in a state of crisis, the agent offers some small kindness or reprieve from the abuse. He may offer the target a drink of water. You know, but this I'm speaking about. You know, this is a one-on-one thing that's going on here with the individual that's brainwashing another individual. Okay, I'm going to show you how they apply these things in a real-world setting. Okay, or take a moment to ask the target what he missed about home. In a state of breakdown resulting from an endless psychological attack, the small kindness seems huge, and the target may experience a sense of relief and gratitude completely out of proportion to the offering, as the agent has saved his or her life. Compulsion to confession. Okay, before I move on to that. So, again, I'm going to show you how they use that leniency trick, right? Or tactics. So, during my targeting, um, when I used to go out, I used to date, they would attack me, people at, restaurants, waiters, every time I showed up at the restaurant, we sat down to eat, the waiters would come over, and the first thing that they'll do is pull on their ear, okay? And then my date, will start touching her nose. And the end of the date, you know, after going through all the psychological attack, my date would kiss me. Okay? And it kind of left me feeling confused because I'm like, here she is participating with these people in this restaurant, and at the end of the date, she's kissing me, telling me how much the date was great and this and that, and again, that is because they want to have you in a state of confusion. Okay, because for some reason they want you to believe that you've committed some crime, right, and that this is somehow to help you. I'm kind of confused, So, what crime did they make me think that I committed? Well, let's see. During my targeting, I remember walking down my block and I keep seeing these posters of a person that's wanted, and I remember when it first happened. So I walked into my apartment building. Then I saw these two people that was knocking on a door of a house, and as I'm walking, they both turned at the same time and looked at me, and they continued to look at me. Okay, now these people were dressed in like long. There's two guys dressed in long trench coat, and they were white, dressed in long trench coat, and then I start seeing these posters plastered all over the place. And for some reason, I was drawn to the poster, and I went to the poster, and they sketched the individual on the poster, like to where, I could look at it and be like, you know what? This person kind of looked like me. And I knew I didn't rob a post office because that's what it said, that this individual robbed a post office. I mean, I was like, what the heck? So I grabbed one of the poster, and I came home from work that day, and I had to go to a friend of mine house because I had to drop off some money. So my mom was there, and I was very surprised that she was at this individual house. And I was telling them, showing them the post. I said, "Look, they're trying to say that I robbed a post office, okay?" And I believe it was after that point I started seeing, again these fake stage arrests that was happening. And then I remember it was one time, it was Labor Day, and we have what is called Juve, right, which is the night before the Labor Day parade, right? And I remember going out to Juve, and I remember I was on Nostrand Avenue and Empire Boulevard, standing at the corner, and I remember these two girls came standing close to me. A police officer walked up to them, and they were talking to them. They were saying, this guy was, he grabbed my boob, he grabbed my butt. And at the same time they're telling this police officer this, they're all looking at me. Okay? And again, I didn't panic because at this point I had found this website that talked about some of the shit that they had done to this individual. And, I was like, yo, that sounds like what they're doing to me. So I didn't panic, and then I just move myself from that situation. right? So anyway, so again, this is what they try. They'll try to make you believe that you commit some type of crime, and that if you don't do what they say, they're gonna arrest you for it. So they'll either make you believe that they're gonna use false witness against you, which I'm gonna show you in the video after this. That sort of thing, right? So let me move on again. So compulsion to confess. You may find yourself from the first time in the brainwashing process. I'm sorry, you can help yourself for the first time in the brainwashing process. The target is faced with a contrast between the guilt and pain of identity assault, and the sudden relief of leniency. The target may feel a desire to reciprocate the kindness offered to him, and at this point, the agent may present the possibility of confession as a means of relieving guilt and pain. Channeling of guilt. This is why you are in pain. After weeks or months of assault, confusion, breakdown, and moments of leniency, the target guilt has lost all meaning. He or she is not sure what he or she has done wrong. He just knows he is or she is wrong. This creates something of a blank slate that let the agent fill in the blanks. He or she can attach that guilt, that sense of wrongness, to whatever he or she wants. The agent attached the target's guilt to the belief system that the agent is trying to replace. The target comes to believe it is his belief system, his or her belief system, that is the cause of his or her shame. The contrast between old and new has been established. The old belief system is associated with psychological and usually physical agony, and the new belief system is associated with the possibility of escaping that agony. Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, so when they try to make you believe certain things like shame, guilt, or what have you, and then the only way to relieve that shame or that guilt is to, especially my targeting, is to join them. Okay, don't say anything, join them, be part of this cult. That's who they are, destructive cult. All right, and we'll protect you. Nothing's going to happen to you. Okay, this is how they recruit people, and I'm sure there are a lot of targets who have joined their cult. And listen, I don't blame them. I mean, when you're being tortured, and just remember too, psychological torture can be even more harmful than physical torture. Okay, the releasing of guilt. It's not me, it's my belief. The embattled target is relieved to learn there is an external cause of his wrongness, that it is not he or she himself that is inescapably bad. This means he or she can escape his or her wrongness by escaping the wrong belief system. All he or she has to do is denounce the people, again, and institution associated with that belief system. So again, leading to self-isolation. And at that point, then they can seriously do harm to you. Okay? And he won't be in any more pain. The target has the power to release his or herself from wrongness by confessing to acts associated with his or her old belief system. With this new confession, the target has completed his psychological rejection of his former identity. It is now up to the agent to offer the target a new one. Okay, so when you're in a coercive persuasion program, how do they send you a message about how now they've created this new sense of who you are? Okay, for me, they had put me through what is called a fixation drill. So, for instance, let's say they set me up with a woman, what is called a honey trap, and I didn't sleep with her. Okay, then what would happen is that I would see smokers, people who smoke, and they will take out their pack of cigarette, and it will always be that one brand, and that one brand is called Newport. Okay, and every time that would happen, you know, I in my mind I kept repeating new, the word new. Okay, and I kept saying to myself, why am I repeating these things? Why am I saying these things again? You know, but it wasn't until I really fully understand how brainwashing works that I realized that what was happening. And the fact is that, remember, they didn't. I'm not in some isolated area or office or building where they're doing this to me. This is being done in the outside world, in the real world. So, how do they interject these words or these thoughts? Okay, and the technology that they directed energy weapons, and the technology is called silent sound spread spectrum, and the psychological method is called silent subliminals. Okay, both go hand in hand. All right, so that's some of the things that was happening to me, and how, again, it coincides with me being brainwashed. So I don't want to um, do any more reading on this. You guys can read it for yourself and finish reading it, okay? And I'm going to go back to coercive persuasion and mind control tactics, okay? So just as brainwashing, coercive persuasion programs are a new version of that, okay? A new version of that that is aided by technology, directed energy weapon, mind control, microwave weapons, silent subliminal messages. But underneath it all, the same manipulative tactics or the same brainwashing tactics are used, okay, to force, to act, or to think in a certain manner, to dominate, restrain, or control by force, to bring about by force. Okay? So, I'm going to go through the tactics. Increase suggestibility, softening up of individual through specific hypnotic or other suggestibility increasing techniques. We talk about sleep deprivation, it's here. Nutritional restriction, that's here also. Extended audio, visual, verbal, it's there. Fixation drill, I talked about, that's there. Control over the personal environment, their time. So that's why they have all these people participating. So the minute you walk outside, there's somebody in front of your house, in front of your apartment building. You go to your destination, there's somebody there. And if you deviate and it throws them off from the synchronization, they will quickly readjust. Like sometimes you'll see a perp run into the street corner, right? Because the timing is off. So you see that. You'll see that a lot, Or if the perp don't see you, he's paying so much attention looking for you that he's not aware what's going on around him, and he might get into an accident, those sort of things, okay? Prohibiting disconfirming information, I'll give you an example. So I posted a photo on my Facebook page and it got blocked. Okay, I posted it again and it got blocked. Now this photo is of it's a suggestive photo. Okay, it's a suggestive photo of and it says I think, what is it? Let me get my phone. It's on my phone here. Let's see. Let me get my. Actually, let me see. Give me a second to get my phone. Okay, so the photo, it says, treat your lady right, but they cross out the T and the R, and it's eat your lady right. Now there's a guy and a girl. She's wearing bra. She's wearing panties. He is sitting down, and her legs is between his face. Right. So again, it's suggestive. There's no nudity in there. Okay. I got blocked. They actually blocked the photo, and they they put me in Facebook jail for 24 hours. Now, there are many people on Facebook who post stuff with nudity in it, who post stuff with actually people naked having sex. I see it all the time on Facebook. They don't get blocked. Okay, those photos are still up there. Okay, but yet I can't post this photo. Why is that? Why is that? Because again, they want to censor me. I guess they don't want me talking about sex or anything like that. So they will block any photo that I may have that has some sort of suggestibility when it comes to sex, right? So again, this is just I'm just giving you an example of what it is that they do. Okay, so again, let's go. Make the person re-evaluate the most central aspect of his or her experience of self, and it's the same thing in brainwashing. Uh, let's see here. Let's go back. Okay, the attack on the self, breaking down the self. You know, that's exactly what they're doing. You know, but in coercive persuasion tactic, they use new terminology, but they both mean the same thing. Okay, create a sense of powerlessness, create strong aversive emotional arousal. Okay, and they do that by, and again, this is being used in the real world, so the tactics is going to be different, but you know the method are the same, right? So, you know, intense humiliation, loss of privilege, such as if you're in a relationship, the denial of sex, social isolation. You know, when you interact with people, they will target you. Okay, social status change. If you have a very good job, they will fire you from their job, and and if they let you work, the only job you will get are low paying jobs. Okay, intense guilt. They will constantly set you up, constantly put you in situations where they already know the outcome. Okay, and the outcome will never be to the advances of the target. It will be to the detriment of the target. Anxiety, manipulation, and so forth. Okay, and intimidation. I show you with the use of the police to try and intimidate me, you know, those sort of things. And I'm going to show you that again in the video today, what happened to me today. So you'll see. Okay, so again, now, okay, the new terminology that they're using now for mind control is called behavior modification. So when you go to the hospital, and before it used to be called the psychiatric office, now it's called the behavior modification. They try to sanitize brainwashing. Okay, this is what they're doing. And here you go with the fire trucks now, with the sirens. Okay, so this site here is a very good site, you know, and I kind of want to share this, and I've shared this on my talk show, you know, which I haven't done one in a while, you know, but just wanted to do this video because this is important, and TIs, we have to understand this. We have to really understand the psychological operation. Okay, so this site gives you information on the remedies for coercive persuasion and mind control. Okay, coercive persuasion, we all know what that is. I don't need to go and rehash this because, you know, you guys already got the information. At least I hope you have the information. Okay? So, protection from psychological operation, exit coaching. Okay? Defense against coercive persuasion. And they give you the coercive strategy, hypnotic compliance. Okay? Recognizing that's the defense is recognizing hypnotic strategies, which is important. Now, it took me a while to be able to do this. Okay, I've been in this program for well over 15 years. Okay, and again, that's knowing. Okay, so remember too, there's always a few years in which you're being prime or prep for this. Okay, so again, all the stuff here, and then they give you the defense. Okay, now I'm not saying if you read this, you'll be able to do this. Obviously, you know, we all need an expert, someone who is an expert at this, to really uh, reverse the damaging psychological effect that they've done to us. But it will never happen, and I'll tell you why. Because the U.S. government will not allow that to happen. Okay? And if someone tries to help you, they will be threatened. They probably will be blacklisted, or they will be set up for blackmail to keep quiet and not help you at all. Okay? So, read this stuff. Hopefully, you will find information in here. And maybe, like I said, you can also develop some defense mechanism, defense tactics. And that's what I've done. Okay? That is exactly what I've done. So, I just want to read this, right? So, I want to read the conclusion. By becoming aware of the tactics of coercive persuasion, one may witness these tactics in general and everyday use in marketing, political rhetoric, or military recruiting. Here they go. Okay? They don't stop. Okay? On political rhetoric or military recruiting, often under the guise of patriotism. And I've talked about this. Okay? I've talked exactly about this. Like for me, I can recognize a lot of these things now. Okay? But again, you have to know about it. And again, don't think and don't say, oh, well, I can't be manipulated. Like I said, everybody can be manipulated. Now more so easily than ever. Because remember, pharmaceutical companies dumping drugs into the public drinking water. Okay? And these drugs have the capability and ability to what is called soften up the mind. Okay? So trust me. Don't go around talking about nobody can brainwash you. Okay? You sound like a silly rabbit. However, these common application of compliance pale in comparison to the treatment of people who join certain cults. And you know, these people in this cult, they're being manipulated, you know, and they're being used in a way they're not being harmed like we are being harmed. We as TIs are being harmed, but you know they are, totally brainwashed. An extremist organization are people who were captured and imprisoned by hostile or terrorist organization. Although coercive persuasion include confusion, intimidation, and victimization, the victims are often naive and unaware of the intense psychological attack on their rationality and consciousness. Only later, if the tactics are explained, may a victim perceive the root of their compliant behavior. Now, we as TIs, we're not compliant. So this really doesn't apply to us, you know, in that way. You know, maybe some TIs have become compliant. Okay, so for them, then yeah. But for others, like me, there are many other TIs, it does not. Remember, these people profit from what it is that they're doing to us. So whether it be the military-industrial complex, whether it be law enforcement, whether it be private sector tech companies, okay, or whether it be the psychiatric industry, pharmaceutical industry, okay, they all profit from it, okay. So organizations and cults who profit from coercive persuasion may evade lawsuits and prosecution for fraud, false imprisonment, undue influence, involuntary servitude, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and other torturous act. Until the victims speak out, and then it says, we can help victims. He says, we help victims to speak out. We provide preventative training for people who may come into contact with coercive or extreme organization. Now, when you contact this site, okay, you may not even get a response. All right, and so again, it's something that we just have to live by. Understand that communications are always intercepted. Okay, they're either stopped or they're sent somewhere else. All right, but just reading the information itself, and like I said, they give you, you know, uh, ideas. They give you certain defense mechanism that can help you. Okay, so just wanted to end this video now, and now I'm gonna do the other video, which again, my daily torture, psychological torture that takes place, and you'll see. You can go back and watch this video, or go back and read these websites, and you'll see exactly how it coincides with what you're going through as a TI on the psychological front. Okay. So let's go back here. Let me. Now you guys can see me. So that's it. I hope this information is helpful. I really do. And I hope that as TIs, as we become stronger and begin to recognize what's being done, that we no longer fall into the traps. We're not, emotionally controlled, abused, and that we can get back some sense of our own ability to think for ourselves without the influence of these coercive persuasion programs.